The views and opinions of the hosts and guests on Transcending Humanity are their own and not those of their respective employers. Thank you so much for listening to or watching the show. Please subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/transcendinghumanity. We really appreciate the support. Thank you.
Hi, can I help you?
Where's Doc?
I'm sorry, who are you here to see?
Doc? Dr. Andrew Bellamy, OBGYN, it says it right there on the door.
Well, Dr. Bellamy's with a patient right now.
Okay, well, I need to see him now.
Okay, young lady, please calm yourself down.
Yes, please. Oh, mind your own business, Miss STD.
Okay, you know what? I will set up an appointment for you with Dr. Bellamy.
Hey! Don't mess with me, bitch! Doc! Look what fucking happened to me, dude! Look at me!
Miss, please, I am in the middle of an examination here.
Would you tell trash mouth Sally here to wait her turn?
Oh, shut the hell up, lady! Doc,
Miss, if you do not behave, I will call security.
Angie, that won't be necessary. Help me with Miss Goldfarb here. We're gonna move you to another room.
Doctor and Angie, what a yachna!
Angie, I won't be long.
Doc, I don't know what happened, man. I woke up this morning and I'm a fucking broad.
Okay, there are a lot of psychologists' office in the building. Are you sure you didn't walk into the wrong one?
Doc, you gotta believe me. I feel like I'm in this nightmare. Like I just keep waiting to wake up. Dude, it's me. It's Sam.
Sam.
Sam! Sam Wellman, your best friend.
Okay, very good. How much is he paying you?
Ask me something. Ask me anything.
Really? I get the joke.
Yeah, okay, ask me something about Cynthia.
You know about Cynthia?
Dude, I know everything about you. You're boo-boo, she's Susu.
He told you that?
Oh! You were 9 years old, you showed it to Lauren Abramski, she kicked you in the nuts, you told your mom you fell off the swing.
He told you that?
I was there, dude. I practically carried you home. Oh! Senior prom, Sandy O'Malley gave you your second blowjob under the bleachers, your first blowjob March 1st, 1993. Lisa Kaminsky in your basement, your mom came home.
Is there anything that prick didn't tell you?
I am that prick! Oh! DNA.
Miss, please put down the scissors.
Doc, DNA. DNA, get a DNA test done.
Great, please, the scissors before someone gets hurt.
Yeah, but Doc, you have the blood from the paternity suit. We get a DNA test done. Poof, yeah.
Okay, sure, great. Now, give me the scissors and go home and get some rest, huh?
Okay, but you're gonna do it right away.
Yeah, as soon as you leave, it goes right to the DNA office or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, sure, great.
Okay, good, but you're gonna do it.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Just relax.
Okay.
Go home.
Okay.
Get some rest.
All right.
Fucking Sam. Jesus.
Okay. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Transcending Humanity. This is episode 40. We have made it to 40 episodes somehow. Just a friendly reminder, please remember to rate us, subscribe to us, and, support us on Patreon, patreon.com/transcendinghumanity. Really helps. And, it just really helps. Today, I am joined by Jess, as everybody knows, and also my girl, Jenni, who is our essentially random guest today. I'm like, hey, Jenni, do you want to join? And she's like, yeah, sure. So Jenni runs a podcast called Long Term Pickles. And Jenni, you want to give that a little plug really quick?
I would love to, and thank you. Long Term Pickles is a podcast for just like checking out mentally and listening to something, hopefully that, sometimes the topics are a little heavier. We try not to get too heavy. We try to keep them really light, but it's just a place to maybe come listen and, I don't know, feel like you're chatting with some besties about some silly stuff. We laugh a lot. We have a really good time. And, currently it's not we don't have anything new up because we got in the middle of some nonprofit work we were doing and that really took precedence. So for right now we are just we're gearing back up in June, though. We're starting back up in June, and we are going to have a little more theme oriented topics, even though they'll still be pretty random. And in each episode we try a new pickle or pickle adjacent snack. So we've had a lot of fun with that, and I look forward to continuing.
My trans girls that listen to this show, if you're still on Spyro, definitely listen to that too. Get some pickle recommendations. Jess, what's going on with you? Anything fun?
Um, I'm happy to be back on the show. It's been about, I don't know, maybe a month or more. Happy that we're back up and going, and you're you know, feeling better
I'm not trying to kill
generally.
myself.
Yes,
Yeah.
all around in all of the ways. That's wonderful. So yeah, I mean, I'm happy to be back. What's been going on? Um I have been really kind of just like I haven't been up to my normal projects and stuff as much as I usually am. I've been kind of taking a like I've been well, I say that. I've been doing like house projects and not like all my online kind of more activism advocacy stuff. And it's been good to take a break and kind of regroup a little bit on that. But I'm also like starting to feel the itch to get back to some things. But yeah, I've been doing very just kind of physical like gardening and just trying to be and setting things up for the change of season and whatever. Yeah, so it's kind of felt like a little bit boring in like a really good way.
Mm-hmm. We those kinds of breaks, mental breaks, are important, especially when you're in advocacy, and because you have to pour your just heart and soul into it, and it's fucking draining, especially when you have so much animosity being pushed against you all the time too. So it's nice to be able to just get out and like, pull some weeds.
Yeah, yeah, and kind of put it on. I've been doing the spending less time on social media and like trying to do the balance of staying informed and doing good for myself and my own mental health and physical health and all of that. So
Good,
yeah,
good. I'm gonna call. Sorry,
quick
that
mute.
makes me happy. Yeah, I have my little quick mute button right here that I'll tap
Nice.
and for all my hacks and coughs and wheezes and all that wonderful stuff. So need to work my vocal training here. So this week we are going to do something a little bit like a lot a bit later because last week was kind of heavy. If you listen to that episode, it was heavy, or I guess 2 weeks ago. We do this every 2 weeks, don't we? My brain doesn't work. So um, I thought we'd just share some stories, either be fun things going on or just good fun, whatever. And do you two mind if I start with mine and then we go to you?
Please
Please.
do.
Okay. So part of the trans experience, I don't know if it's the same for NBs and trans masks, but Jess, did you have like kind of are you drawn to gender bender movies, especially before you came out?
I mean, I'm always drawn to like queer stuff. Yeah, you know,
Mhm.
but I don't know. Yeah, I mean, gender bender specifically. But yeah, I mean, anything queer, I'm kind of all up in.
Attached
Um,
to?
yeah.
Yeah. Um, I know with trans femmes a lot, like body swap movies, like where, boy becomes girl, girl becomes boy, whatever. When our eggs are cracking, those kind of jump out at us. When my egg was cracking, I was watching uh a number of movies along those lines. One of them that was kind of fun, it's worth watching, is Xerophilia. It's an interesting one where the person goes back and forth every time they have sex, so which is good. Um, but the one I want to talk about is a movie called Sam from 2017. And this is the one that really, when I was watching the movies, that's the one that like finalized my egg cracking, and I came out pretty shortly after that. And it's just kind of a standard. It's a rom-com mixed with a gender swap. So starts off with like your dude bro guy and total like fraternity fucking chauvinistic piece of shit asshole. And he wakes up one morning and he's a girl. And he gets to explore life in a female body in that same kind of atmosphere that he was in before, a lot of toxic masculinity, has a really creepy fucking chauvinistic boss. And so it's kind of fun to watch. And it turns into like a romance and stuff. It's a solidly decent movie. Um, it has its problems. It's filmed kind of like a Cinemax softcore porn, which is kind of strange. Um, but it's fun to watch. So those watching, our listeners and our YouTube viewers are going to get more out of this episode than our podcast listeners, because I played a clip for it from the movie at the beginning of this. And on the podcast, you're probably like, what was that? So this is what that was. So go to the YouTube show if you want to see that. But anyways, I remember when I first watched it, I was more into the whole egg cracking thing than anything else at the time. But I remember the actress seemed really familiar somehow, but I didn't put a whole lot of thought into it until I watched it again about, I don't know, Jenny, I think I was watching it when I was talking to you. So it's probably about a month ago or so. And the actress that plays the lead, Natalie Knepp, I'm like, I know her. How the fuck do I know this girl? And like the more I watch it, I'm like, something, I know her. So I go into an autistic ADHD fucking rabbit hole spiral to try to figure this out, because sometimes, when your brain gets into that, like, how do I know this person? I have to figure out how I know this person. And it did lead down a rabbit hole. So I went to her IMDb and I saw that she's from Aurora, Ohio. And I grew up in Hudson, Ohio, which is like a town over from Aurora. I actually used to work at the SeaWorld in Aurora. If you could believe, Ohio had a SeaWorld. I know. That was one of the most fun jobs I ever had. Paid like $4.25 an hour. It was shit pay, but it was fun. So I'm like, well, maybe I worked with her at SeaWorld. Maybe. I don't know. Nep. And she mainly, like, I recognize faces. Um, but the last name Nep also kind of like clicked in my head. I'm like, what is going on here? So I creep on her on Instagram for a little bit, and comment on her stuff. And I make a comment that I'm like, somehow I know you. And she posted a picture of her and her mom during the anniversary of the Kent State May 4th shootings, because her mom was there. And I'm like, okay, this is really starting to connect together, because the picture of her and her mom, they look like identical. And I'm like, I recognize her mom. And thinking back in my little brain, I remembered I had a teacher in high school, sophomore year, named Mrs. Knipp. And then later she changed it to Canfora. And I'm like, oh. So I go and grab my yearbook. I have it here. And let's see if I can hold this up to the camera. Um, so right here, that is Mrs. Knapp slash Canfora. And let me, hopefully I still have this pulled up on. And this is Natalie Knapp. It's probably not showing up very well on the camera, but if you look her up, you'll see it. They look like identical. Natalie's about the same age that her mom was when she was my teacher, but this is 27 years ago. So I commented, I'm like, did your mom happen to teach at Hudson? She's like, yeah. I'm like, holy shit. She was my teacher. I'm like, I told her, like, these are all in public posts. I'm like, I have been trying to figure out how I know you forever. Well, not for a while now. Like, it's just been driving me nuts. And now I get it. Your mom was my teacher, and you look just like her. So she and I switched to DMs and we're just chatting, and it's just kind of wild, like how our brains can grab onto something, like be it a face or a name or whatever. And in my case, like kind of obsessively, like, how do I know this person? This is going to drive me crazy. And I created a little friendship out of it with Natalie, and it's super fun. So it went from she her movie helped crack my egg, and now I have like a little bit of a friendship with her. And I don't know, I just thought it's kind of a fun story to tell because it's so completely random. And I mean, how often do you reach out to a celebrity and they actually, respond as well? So, um, I'll be tagging her on this. She actually, I made a little reel earlier today and mentioned her on it, and she shared it. So I asked her if she wanted to be on tonight, but she's out seeing a show. So unfortunately, she won't be here, but maybe I guess in the future. But yeah, that's just kind of my just random fun, like how I guess maybe it's just how my brain works. I don't know. Is it an autistic thing to just like grab onto something like that and like be like, I have to figure this out? But so yeah, I have a connection with her going back like 27 years. Who knows if I met her in the past? I don't know. But I just think it's kind of cool. So I'm hoping to be able to reconnect with her mom too. I reached out to her, but I haven't heard back. But it's just kind of fun. So yeah, that's my story.
Small
And
world stuff for sure.
it really is. Yeah, it's definitely a small world. So,
What did
but
she teach?
it was I believe it was like a media class. So at the time I was raised as a good little Republican boy, and Hudson was a very conservative town, and she's a very liberal teacher. And I was so brainwashed by my father that at the time I just thought she was a kook. But now I'm like, she's my people. But so it's just kind of wild just thinking back on it, and how people just kind of like make impressions on us in one way or another. And it lasts through the years, like 27 years ago. Like, why do I remember this? Why is Natalie's face so like familiar to me? And some people just really look like their parents, I guess. So Natalie and Chick, if you're watching this, hi. Thank you. And definitely check out Natalie. Look at her work. Sam is just a fun movie, especially if you're trans. Or if your egg is starting to crack. It's just fun to watch. The uh, the romance in it is they have pretty good chemistry. There's a lot of plot holes. Like, how does this girl suddenly have uh all these clothes that fit her out of absolutely nowhere? But yeah. So that's my story. Who wants to share something fun that's going on with them?
Awkward silence.
Anyway, Jess.
Awkward silence.
Jess.
Um, oh man. No, that's a cool story. I think it's a trip how like there really is. What was that game? It's like 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, right?
I've heard of that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Or it's like, I think that one's supposed to be like anybody in Hollywood is connected to Kevin Bacon.
Anybody, period, I think.
Anybody,
is-
period. Well,
yeah.
that's really the thing though,
Yeah.
is like, it kind of ends up being that. I don't have any really, really cool. It's funny, like I had mentioned before we started recording, you had, talked about the topic, and I was just like, I got nothing. I got nothing. But I have been thinking though today about how it is just interesting how we are all, connected in some way. And I guess a lot of people think about it with like, if there are any celebrity connections or, people that who are connected that way, just because it's easier to say like, this is somebody who is not in my circle, this like super celebrity person who like lives in LA or New York or has like 5 houses or like whatever. But there is like some kind of inroad. There are like, I think it's interesting how there are a few people that I went to high school with, and I won't mention anybody's names because I haven't like talked to them, and I don't want to offend anyone, but like, and I hardly keep up with anybody that I went to high school with, but there are a few people that I went to high school with who like either are doing things in the public eye now or are connected to other people. Like I actually saw a video just yesterday of one of my friends who just sang on stage with Brandy Carlisle for like the second time. And unfortunately not somebody that I really keep up with like super regularly now. It's like I just saw it through Instagram, but it was like one of my buddies from middle school and high school. And, that is just like a trip that it's like that I even know someone who has done that. Plus it's like really amazing for this person. But like, that's just, that's just such a interesting thing. Like there's somebody else that I know who has, gotten like done some work in the government and been on MSNBC on a couple of times. And like, it's just interesting how it's like, at some point you do start to realize the connections. And yeah, it's like, I think again, it's like, it's easy to see that if it's somebody who is like, who ends up on the news or who ends up on a YouTube video because they like, happen to be connected to this concert when in that other instance, which is like really amazing for them. But it's also like, we are really all connected even without that, public face. It's like, just throughout our different networks. And especially now, I mean, I think the whole 6 degrees thing was even a thing before, the internet and like social media was so popular.
I think I
right?
remember that all the way back into high school, or at
Yeah,
least
that was
early
like
college.
Yeah, that was like definitely before, but even now it's like just any kind of social connection with people, you can definitely spider web out in such a way that is quite a trip. So I don't know, it's an interesting thing to think about.
Nowadays, it might be more like 5 degrees of separation. I mean, the world is getting quite a bit smaller. It is just wild. Like, even just if you're on Facebook, you pop up someone and you're like, oh, we have like 500 friends in common or something, and I have no idea who this person is. But then you'll come across someone else and you have no friends in common. You're like, it's almost weird to not have any friends in common with someone when you have a lot of friends. And I don't know, social media is just weird like that. It's made the world smaller in both a good and a bad way, in that like there's a lot of good that comes from it, a lot of relationships that come from it, a lot of learning, a lot of empowerment, but there's also a lot of hate that comes from it too. So us in the trans community, or in Jenni's case, trans adjacent, we get our share of death threats and all sorts of wonderful things because people suck. But yeah. Jenni, what's going on with you? Tell us something fun.
I wish I could just I just want to isolate at this point. I don't want to be connected to people anymore. I'm so tired. I I don't really mean that. I see people post things like oh, I just want to go out and live in the woods and forage mushrooms and not be around people. And I get it. I mean, I do, because I'm kind of there right now just because of some goofy nonsense in my, in my own head, in my own life. And then, I mean, look at the world, holy smokes. But, we haven't survived as a species that way. The reason that we are where we are is because of collaboration, because of community, because of, and yeah, I mean, sometimes, not sometimes, all the times, those exist in these pockets of communities, and that's good and bad too, right? Because some of them can be really, really negative, and then they all feed on each other. And I think everybody's kind of got that, not everybody, I guess, but there's that kind of evangelical spirit to it, where it's like, go and spread the gospel of whatever I believe in, or my agenda, or whatever it is. And that's great whenever it's something positive, and it's not great when it's something negative. And I've just kind of been struggling, especially in the last maybe 3 days, to kind of just deal with the fact that I'm a little different than the people around me, and the immediate world around me. And trying to pull in what's good, trying to put out what's good instead of the other stuff. But I mean, social media, y'all, social media, but not a lot. I am in a small town. It's really not that small, but it's small, in Oklahoma. And we are actually putting on a Pride Fest. And I mean, it's a very small little nonprofit we've got going here. And we get a lot of pushback. So anytime we try to do a fundraiser, somebody's knocking on somebody's business, hey, you better not bring that here to your business to have a pizza fundraiser even. I mean, it's really goofy. But we manage it every year. We just plan these great events. We had the big gay garage sale, and it had a good turnout. I think it could have been better. So I have some ideas for next year. I love that you kind of learn. Okay, now I know what we'll do different next year. And we're just kind of planning some other fundraisers and doing some fun stuff. And Pride Fest is going to be really, really cool. It's not this Saturday, it is next Saturday. I even took off work for this, so I care.
Yeah, because I know
I
your
don't,
boss
I don't
doesn't
get off work.
either. Yeah.
And yeah, I'm just very, very excited about that. There's going to be a local animal rescue there, and I'm probably gonna look. I know they've got a couple little Chihuahua mixes. Jess, I know you don't know this, but we lost a puppy last week. And when I tell you, it was absolutely devastating. I mean, I can now kind of see some pictures of him and kind of smile, but only for about a second. And then it's back on. I mean, it was just a devastating. Vanessa walked me through it. Bless you. Thank you. It was a devastating experience. But then, I found out this little rescue is going to be at at Pride Fest. And so they were asking for some donations for things. I was gathering some things up, and I looked on their page, just trying to figure out, well, what else do they need? And there's like 2 or 3 little cheap puppies.
Dangerous.
I'm like, damn it. Am I ready to be hurt again? The only thing is they're asking, can you foster first? Make sure it's going to get along with your animals.
smart.
Make sure you like it. And it is smart. But I said, well, are they spayed or neutered? And she said, no, but they will be. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I can do it. Because if I go and love this animal, Jess, it was a tragic incident in which my dog was under anesthesia for being neutered, and his glucose dropped very suddenly, and they could not save him. And so, I have this PTSD about it. Like, I'm just not sure. And I'm not ready. I'm scared. I know that doesn't happen very often. It's actually pretty rare, but I'm so scared now that I'm afraid to love a dog and then send it to get spayed or neutered again. I'm afraid I won't even be able to function. I'm gonna have to take 5 Benadryl to get through the day.
Yeah, that's really tough.
Real good stuff.
I mean,
it is tough.
Losing an animal is always tough, but losing a pet is always tough. But yeah, that's especially unexpected in a way like that, because that's such a very, very routine procedure.
And the safest place your animal could be is there at the vet's office. And so, but I don't mean to put a negative spin on any of this. That is just kind of part of the living experience, is that things don't live forever. But I'm big into opening my heart. I'll take all the dogs. I want all the dogs. I'm gonna get brokenhearted again. I'm gonna let it happen. I'm just gonna let it happen. Because they're so cute, you guys. They're so cute.
They are.
One has an ear that does this. Stop it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're getting a dog.
I know.
You're getting a dog. Losing a pet is harder than losing a person. When I've lost family members, even when my dad killed himself, I cried for maybe 5 minutes. But when my last dog died, I was inconsolable. My best friend flew in from out of town to make sure I didn't do something stupid. My girlfriend at the time was there with me the entire time. And then 2 days after she died, I got Gabby, just because I knew I wasn't going to be able to survive without without a fluffernutter. So it's hard. It's very hard.
I know. But we'll make it.
Yeah. So, random question, since we were talking about celebrities earlier, have either of you ever just run into a completely random celebrity in the wild?
Yeah.
Jenni's nodding.
Yeah. Do either of you watch Wheel of Fortune?
Not anymore. I know Pat
Okay,
Sajak's a piece of shit, but
yeah. Well, I met Vanna White,
okay.
and I don't know how she is now. I believe that everybody has the opportunity to grow and change. But at the time, she was a bitch.
The way you led that up, I knew where that was going.
I'm sure she's lovely. Maybe it was a bad day. Sometimes you just don't want to deal with people. So no, she was a little bit of a bitch.
Were you fangirling?
I waited on Dave Matthews. Yeah. Who else? I mean, there's been some really random, goofy stuff, and I don't think anybody super major. I went to see Willie Nelson last night, which was super freaking cool.
How was that?
Okay, first of all, the man is 91. Do you hear me? That is the number 9 and 1.
I can't believe he's still going.
Sat up there playing his guitar, and you know, he doesn't really sing quite as much now. He does a lot of talking, and then he'll kind of sing like the chorus, but it was just precious. I was watching a living legend, and this is,
Goosebumps.
I'm sure, his last tour. I don't
Yeah.
want to say that in any kind of
The power, I mean, if there's any advertisement for the power of marijuana, it's
I mean,
Willie.
I bought a
So
shirt and he's smoking a joint, and it's great. There was a lot of marijuana everywhere.
I can imagine.
Beer was $50 for a 6-pack.
Oh, wow.
I don't drink, so I didn't have to worry about it, but holy smokes. I was like, that, you paid how much for that?
That's a lot. That's way
Yeah.
too much.
Yeah, I would have just brought my own in. There's ways.
Yeah, oh, exactly. There's ways. I mean,
They check your bag, but there's ways.
yeah. Well, I have a pocket between my legs now. Just shove something up in there.
Yes.
Um,
My goodness.
that's what dilating's for, right?
That's
Jess, do you have anybody that you've come across in your
Well,
travels?
I have a few, like, I guess there's a couple. I mean, I think the biggest name ones, there was a while that I was actually, it was when I was living here before, in Asheville, and I was managing a restaurant, but it was when, oh gosh, I'm gonna have a hard time remembering the name of the movie, but it was a movie where, Kirsten Wiig, Owen Wilson, and Zach Galifianakis were all in this movie.
Kristen Wiig, Owen Wilson.
It's gonna
I mean,
gonna
I'm
get
trying to
me
think.
that I don't know. I feel like I need to Google.
Kristen
Should Google
Wiig.
this.
But anyway, it
Owen.
was around, it probably was, I think they must have been filming it around 2015, 2016, somewhere in there. But they were all in town, and Zach Galifianakis would just show up. I worked at this burger joint, and he would just show up like randomly by himself to eat a burger with like kind of like the hat and sunglasses, like the whole thing, you know. And people would be like, let's just leave him alone, you know. We like wouldn't, like, the staff would be talking about it, but we wouldn't tell any of the customers because we were trying to be cool. But then there was one night where Owen Wilson, and I feel like I'm so silly, but is it Kristen Wiig or Kirsten Wiig?
Kristen Wiig.
Kristen Wiig. Or Kristen Wiig and Owen Wilson were, they showed up at this, there was like a nano brewery underneath the place that I managed. Teeny tiny place, a total hole in the wall. Like, you had to go up an alley to get to a door, and then you went down these really dark stairs, and it was like this tiny room.
It's terrifying.
But they had like a different version of shuffleboard than I've ever. They had these like big long board games, and it was kind of like shuffleboard, but it was different. I don't remember the name of the game either. I know this is not filling in enough details for the story, but anyway, it was like this crazy, unique, like weird shuffleboard game, and it was like this total hole in the wall place. Not like this is a really busy town, but there are like more breweries than there are anything here. It's like total beer city. So there are a bunch that are like open and have big patios, and like you could not like hide out there. But this place was like the whole place, you know?
My favorite.
Yeah. And so like they showed up at like, you know, it was like Monday or Tuesday night, you know, like an hour before close. And just all the people from the restaurant were down there because we had just finished our shifts or whatever. And they went to play the shuffleboard knockoff game. And we were just like, oh my God, that's Owen Wilson and Kristen Wiig. Oh, holy shit, you know? But nobody would approach him there anyway. But like, that was the biggest celebrity. I think the only kind of celebrities that I've talked to have been musicians, because when I was in my early 20s, I worked at a jazz club, and some pretty big names came through there, and so I like met them, and it was interesting to see like who was nice and who was not, because some people were like totally nice and some people were total jerks, and it was really just a coin toss to see like whether people were going to be nice or not. But
The
there's
movie is called Masterminds.
I was just gonna say that.
Masterminds. Okay. It's like is it like a heist film or something? Or like I don't know.
It might be.
Honestly, I never watched it, obviously, and I should, because
It's a good cast. Kate McKinnon's in it
Yes.
too.
Yes, they're robbing a bank vault. And also, what do you mean when you were in your early 20s? I'm saying you look like you're still in your early 20s.
oh yeah, you would think so, but that was like 20 years ago. So
I
no.
refuse to believe that. I refuse to believe that. Absolutely
Yeah.
not. Quit lying.
The magic of hormones too. It goes for both. It goes both ways. When you take E or if you take T, it takes years off you. So it's pretty fun.
Yeah. I've been slowly moving from 15-year-old boy to 18-year-old boy. So I'm getting there.
You're getting there. You're
Yeah.
getting there. Maybe one day you'll have a beard like what I used to have. So
You never know.
no, that'll be
Maybe.
fun. I wonder how they heard of that hole in the wall. There must be some.
I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know if it was because like I don't know. It's like the burger place was a lot more well known, but yeah, it was like really like kind of like the definitely one of the lower key spots. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's just a trip.
My stories aren't as fun. My dad was friends with Jay Leno. They went to high school together. And they're both big car guys. So, and Jay would call every few months, and um, like I usually answer the phone at work, and his voice is very, very high on the phone. Like it's you're kind of like, who, what? But there's this building being torn down near us that had like this really cool, like kind of crane gantry, some old thing. And my dad called Jay about it because Jay has that fun garage that he has, kind of a museum almost, and told him about it. And Jay bought it and paid to have it shipped to him. And I think he turned it into like the world's most complicated pencil sharpener or something. But I think it's like steam powered. It's something crazy. Um, but I also bumped into David Hasselhoff in London, of all places. When my bestie Chris and I were in London, we were just walking out of the hotel and he was walking in. That fucker's tall. Holy shit. So it's you do not expect to see the Hoff when you're in London. But yeah, that's about as most interesting stories I have. I've met one of the guys that like filmed the Titanic wreckage, and that's kind of cool.
That's
Um,
very cool.
yeah, I have a picture from him, but yeah, nothing super interesting, really.
I slept with a member of a band, but I've decided I'm not going to share the band. Just because
Might
what
not want
if?
to do that on the podcast. I mean, if you tell me personally, I won't tell
I
anybody.
will absolutely tell you personally.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Maybe when you and I are sleeping together.
Okay.
Okay, that'd
You
be
want me to
sweet.
join, like, call out his name, or you just want me to, like, in the midst of it, just say, hey, real quick,
Um, I mean,
how do you want that to go down?
if that's what you're into, like if I'm eating you out,
Mhm.
maybe.
Okay, okay, I can
Okay.
tell you then.
Okay, cool.
Like a story time dinner
Yeah,
kind of thing. Okay, yeah.
poor Jess. I'm sorry.
And
Jenny and I are very horny for each other.
That's all very specific.
It is. It is. Yeah, she's seen my everything. So, but yeah, long distance kind of, whatever. I hope to get down to Oklahoma one of these
I
days. Not
can
too far.
say long distance, low commitment.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
here right
It's
now.
in I'm just learning about polyamory because I'm starting to, I guess, explore it a little bit because
Yeah.
there's someone here that I'm interested in and there's you that I'm interested in. So there's two people and I've never really done that before. But there's like there's a term that I've heard from two people, two poly people, because the person here is as well. Um, Satellites, where like there's partners that just kind of come in and out of your life,
Yeah.
in timing. So I
Okay.
guess
Okay.
that maybe I don't know. Will you be my satellite?
I mean, I can go for this because I can't do, there's no way I could do that under one roof. And I know people do, and I'm very happy for them. And that's awesome. It's not my thing. I cannot, I really, I prefer a lot of alone time as it is. So having a partner, my husband works over the road and it's great.
Mhm.
It's so great. And I bless his heart. I know he misses me. I know he misses being home. I know he doesn't think it's great, but it really works for me because I don't manage other people's like expectations well. And so it's a lot to try to keep up with another person. I can't imagine trying to keep up with more than one person.
Living with people is hard.
It's
It's
hard.
super hard. Like
Hard.
I'm getting my own place in like a month and a half and I can't wait. But
I'm so excited for you.
Jess, are you living with someone kind of person, or do you prefer to be alone?
Oh, I mean, I am married and under the same roof, so I am absolutely obligated to say no. I'm just kidding. No, she's definitely gonna listen to this too. But no, I've lived with a lot of people before and not a lot of people before, and it really is hard living with people. I definitely think at this point in my life, it's like small little nuclear family that I've got, or not, is it nuclear with being so alternative? I'm not sure. Anyway, whatever. There's three of us, me, the wife, the kid, and that's like, that's it. That's enough, you know. Maybe occasional visitors, but it's like it's enough with that. But I do really love alone time as well, which is great. And figuring out how to build that in with a young kid, well, you know, Vanessa, that's like a challenge, but it's, you know, it's getting there because yeah, alone time is serious. But side note, not polyamorous at all, but I do love all the language, like satellites and what is it? Polyglot? Well, wait, polycule. Now I'm trying to remember.
Polycule.
Polycule. What's the spawn? The poly spawn? Is that polyglot?
Fuck if I know.
There's a term for there's a term polyamorous spawn. I think it may be polyglot. I'm gonna look this up. We're gonna see.
Oh, like kids from it?
Yeah. That's
Oh,
what I
that's awesome.
mean. Yes.
That's
Yes.
cool. And like,
Yeah. But I mean, there's all sorts of really great lingo.
I wonder if there's like
Um,
communal parenting then, like everybody in the polycule parents
well,
or
there's also
something.
that. Yeah, I mean, that's co-parenting, which is different. Another alternative, which is really amazing because it does you know, take a village and all. I would say like
Yes.
the more people willing to parent your kid, the better, as long
Mhm.
as certain boundaries are understood.
Yeah, you're on the same page about a number of things like
Things,
discipline
yeah,
and education, stuff like
yeah.
that. So, yeah, yeah, this whole everything's so new, but when you just when you find like a partner that you really click with, living with them, that's also an absolutely amazing thing. So, I haven't really my relationships in the past, I think my longest relationship was probably my son's mother. That was like 3 years, but like I was married and I was married for 2 years and we were like together for maybe a year before that. But um, I don't think I'm very fun to live with. I've been told that I'm not very fun to live with. So I like to live alone and then just kind of like mingle in from there. So just me and my dog. So I think everybody, when I move out, I think it's going to be good for everybody. So
I had a really cool polycule, I guess, come in. I sell homes, Jess. I sell mobile homes. And we call them manufactured homes because mobile home has a certain
those
connotation.
things are fancy, dude. I've seen them.
They are so nice. I
Yeah.
sell very, very nice homes. And this group, this polycule came in, and there was one home in particular that has an 8-foot shower. When I tell you this is a massive shower, and they were so excited because it was just gonna fit everybody. And I was glad that I got the opportunity to work with them. I don't have a lot of super virtue signaling items in my office, because for the most part, not only am I in a very conservative state, but generally the people who purchase manufactured homes are typically, they lean a certain way.
Mhm.
And you gotta, I feel like such a sellout because I'm like, yeah, I would normally have like my pronoun pins or just something. I just like to have something to identify that's like, hey, you're safe here. I'm gonna treat you respectfully, whatever. And but then you gotta figure, I mean, I gotta get paid, man.
Yeah, you have to do your
At the
job.
end of the day,
So,
I had a kid in college, so but I do try to leave kind of little hints
mhm.
about, if you will,
If you
and hope
suss
they pick
someone
up on
out,
them.
if you suss someone out, you can tell that they're queer, then like you can kind of grab onto
Yeah,
that. But
yeah,
no, I mean, when it comes to like work, you don't have to be your whole true self at work. Sometimes you just need to go there and make your fucking paycheck and leave.
yeah.
So,
But
There's
it can be difficult. I did have a fella pull up one time with a Confederate flag on his truck.
wow.
And I immediately was like, I'm not gonna take that customer. Like, I just don't want to deal with that. Well, it turns out he had an appointment with me. And y'all, when I tell you, he turned out to be just the nicest man. And he bought a great home, and his mother loved me. She made me all these breads and homemade jams, and it kind of breaks your heart a little bit because I'm like, you're such a good person. I mean, you're clearly a decent person, but you have this thing about you that does that negate everything? Sometimes I wonder, you know how you hear the cliche like, oh, if he's nice to you, but he's not nice to the waitress, he's not a nice guy. And you know, are there things that like it's just like, no, you can't, no matter how great you are in so many ways, once we find out this information, like you're no longer great. It's always such a weird little balancing act. You know, everybody in my family, Jess, everybody in my family is conservative. It's me and the kids. We're the only ones that are not. Everybody in my family would vote for Trump again, given the chance. Well, probably not my dad. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody is very, that's just that. And so I love them. I know they have all these great qualities as human beings. I really do. I love them. They made me. They couldn't be that terrible because I think I'm great. But
You are great.
you know, he turned out to be a really nice guy with his Confederate flag on his truck.
It's an interesting thing with that. Like, I think it's like you've gotta like, I see what you mean about like, is there a point where you're just going to be like, no, I'm not interacting or not? I mean, first of all, I totally agree with Vanessa. Like a job is a job. You got to do what you got to do. I mean, when I would work, worked in restaurants for so long, it's like there was no, I mean, everybody who comes in, you serve the public,
Right.
they're a customer, like it doesn't matter. But it is also like, it is also interesting to see kind of like the humanization on the other end of, a lot of people who are more liberal or like queer, trans, or allies or whatever are, all like, I wish you could just see that we're human, but it's actually like, it also goes the flip side too, because it's like, even though somebody has a Confederate flag and may vote for Trump and whatever, it doesn't, I think it's like, it gets tricky because it's like, okay, there are starting to be more serious things, I think, with this political setup right now and the way that our culture is, and it's so divided and it gets so heated and the extremes are so much, and it feels like it has, at least feels like it has escalated in a way that it was like, even if, I mean, I remember when I was in college, I thought George Bush was just like, Junior was like the worst. You know what I mean? I was like, like, I just thought he was like the worst president we would ever have. You know what I mean? It's like,
Hold my
that's
beer.
I
so,
wish.
now I look back and I'm
Wouldn't you
like,
like to go back and just have like, give me a W again?
now I look
I
back and I'm
know.
like, I would take another GW. Like we
Mhm.
could, if
Amen.
that's like, if that, I mean, it's not that I would like vote for
Right.
again in that instance, but I'm just saying like comparatively, it's not like it didn't used to be like quite as extreme, even though at the time I thought George Bush was terrible, but I didn't think he was like going to lead our country towards fascism or, like separate children and families, or like, undermine democracy and, all of these other things that just seem like the stakes are like so high.
He was at least
But
presidential.
yeah.
I mean, he couldn't speak a coherent sentence hardly, but at least
Well,
he almost seemed like there was a genuine person in there.
there was. And
There really
I
was.
actually remember like trying to figure out if he was actually dumbing down his language for the people that would vote for him.
That's a good point.
Because that is another thing that sometimes happens, to be a little bit more
Approachable.
Right, like
human,
approachable, right?
approachable, yeah. That maybe that language shift, because there was some analysis of like his speeches and stuff that kind of started to suggest something like that I remember looking at. But I mean, I just remember, you know, like just that being, and the whole like 9/11 and all of the aftermath of that and the wars and like being, you know, because it was like, and it's interesting because like, okay, segue, but like I've been thinking about that a little bit because that's the war that I was protesting when I was in college, you know,
Right.
was that
Right.
war. But anyway, I definitely get your point about like, and around here, you know, like I live in like a blue, tiny dot, you know, in a pretty red area. It gets red really quickly around here. And so it's interesting because it's like, I don't actually disregard just anybody, you know, even if it's like, we don't, you know, it's like if they're going to treat me respectfully, then like I will have a conversation with them. It doesn't mean that like we're going to be friends and I'm going to want to like be like necessarily supporting their business if they're not, if their politics are really far away. But it's like I also don't have to, you know, it's like, where do you draw those lines? I think it gets a little difficult, but I definitely just feel like the stakes do feel a lot higher now with that kind of calibration, just because, you know, even though I think that a lot of people with Confederate flags may not be that extreme, but they're just flying that symbol because
Yeah.
that's like what they associate with more, even though they may not be representative of like the super duper divisive, violent rhetoric, you know, thing.
Yeah.
And, but yeah,
I try
it's,
to
I
remind
mean,
myself that wasn't something that he just like picked up one day and said, I'm going to run with this. That was passed on to him. That, you know, I always try to remember that people are just coming to the table with their own past, their own hurts, their own hangups, their own very deeply held beliefs.
Yeah.
And sometimes they probably would be different if things had been different.
That's
But
what I was
things
gonna
are
say.
different.
Because I mean, I grew up in a very conservative family and I was raised very conservative. And you know, it took being educated and going to a liberal school to break me out of that. And I think in a lot of cases it's, you know, this guy with his Confederate flag, it's probably just all he's ever known. It's just
Absolutely.
what he's been around his entire life and he hasn't really had exposure to other things. There's
Yeah.
two kinds of people. There's people that are willing to learn and those that aren't. So we just have to work with the people that are willing to learn. And like it, as we've said over and over on this podcast, I refuse to believe that all Republicans want to see the trans community dead.
And they,
I think
and they don't. I know
no.
enough of them who are like, you know, they pull the old tired, I don't want things shoved in my face,
Mhm.
you know, a lot of tired arguments because they don't have any other arguments. They
Yeah.
haven't really formulated any other arguments. So
Mhm.
that's what they have. And very much just you know, you hear the old like, well, you know, it's about being fiscal. It's about money. And you know, I mean, we all want to save money. I mean, I
Yeah.
get that. Who doesn't want to save money? I hate my taxes. But you know, minimum.
We just need to do away with the two-party system. I mean, who knows how long it's going to take for things to actually get better.
Oh,
Not
yeah,
not while we're around, but maybe when
right.
Gen Alpha takes over,
Well, my
it
kids were
might.
just asking about that the other day. They were like, why don't we have, you know, we have to do all this, you know, but even they realize like that's just not where we are.
Mhm.
And right now we are at a critical point where you can't throw away your vote.
No,
You,
you can't.
you just can't throw away your vote.
Yeah, I mean, I have an ex that like she is. I mean, I told her I'm like I can't argue with you on it because you know with the whole genocide going on in Palestine and Biden just sent another $1 billion to Israel again today, and it's been shown that the U.S. weapons are going to have been killing innocents. And it's like in any other election, fuck no, I wouldn't vote for Biden because this is horrible. And
Right,
so we have
right,
horrible and even more horrible. And unfortunately, the even more horrible is directly impacting me, my family, with because with all the anti-trans stuff and anti-queer and anti-women and it's an impossible situation really that I hate that we're in. And because I don't want to support Biden. I'm voting for him, but I don't support him. The only reason
Right.
I'm voting for him is because the alternative is possibly my own genocide. And yes, what's going on in Palestine is horrible and it tears me up, but I can't help with that if I'm facing it myself.
Absolutely.
And it's just so fucked up. And I just,
Yeah,
I,
it isn't. I mean, I think that again, like social media is like right now it's where news is happening so much. And it's also like tricky because, you know, I saw those reports today about the $1 billion of weapons that, you know, supposedly like Biden had just approved or whatever. And then a little bit later I saw that that was actually something that was already going through Congress that was like the timing of it was getting sent over like that. It was actually what had passed.
Mhm.
And like, so he is just passing it along because they finally passed it. And like that, but the timing of it and the way it's getting reported is like, oh, you just held up the weapons, but now you're sending more, you know, it's like this. And I'm not even saying that to defend it because what I'm actually bringing up is that the way that information is presented, it's really
Absolutely.
hard to know what's true because I saw that and I was like, I don't even have time to look this up enough to figure out which story is true right now.
Right.
I'm glad
But
you
I
clarified
like,
that.
you know, but like I hear both of these, but I just also think that like the way that things are being reported, it gets really, really tricky to keep our sense of what is really happening. And like, the genocide is terrible. And like, hey, American imperialism has always been terrible. Back to like what I was actually protesting in college, which was American imperialism in the Middle East. You know, because we were invading Iraq after we were attacked by somebody from Afghanistan. And that makes no logical sense because it didn't make any sense because it wasn't about that, because it was actually about like the control of resources and American imperialism.
Mhm.
And like, you know, and it kind of I know someone who is like from the Middle East, and in a group discussion they were actually saying it's interesting because they actually brought up the resource thing. They were like, if you're looking at it from the higher level, and like, yes, what's happening is terrible, but like if you're looking at it from the higher level of things, this is still this part of the world where people have really wanted to control resources, and there's just been this huge fight between several different factions of, you know, Iran and Israel and the US and, you know, Syria and Saudi Arabia and like all these different areas to try to control this area. And again, I'm not saying any of that to like America it's very much guilty in that, like 100% of meddling in other countries and other governments and trying to have some kind of control in that way. And that sucks. But it's like that still doesn't change the fact that like, if you don't vote for Biden, like I kind of still go back to that, like, okay, so if you're not going to vote for Biden, like, how does that actually help the people that you're trying to help?
Exactly.
You know, and like at that higher level, like it's actually like, it's not that I'm so against Biden, although like, it would be great if we had a younger and different and more progressive alternative, like 100%. But like, it's also that I don't see it as much as like, this is not Biden masterminding. This is like, he's doing the American thing. Like he's doing what he's having to do. And like, I think that it's still way, way, way better than it would be if Trump was in charge, because he would 100% just like be like, hey, Israel, like have whatever you want. You know what? I'll send some folks over, whatever. And you know, whatever he would do would be so much worse for the people of Palestine. So yes, genocide is terrible, and you know, and absolutely like free Palestine. And I think that people are so focused on it, and they're so focused on it being a black and white thing, you know, a yes or no, like a binary thing, that they lose sight of, it's easy to lose sight of the other factors. You know, it's easy to lose sight of like if you're revoking a vote with protest, what are you like, oh yeah, because the world's burning, and it's like, okay, well, fine, yes, and are you just gonna like throw gas on it, or like,
Exactly.
and there are like terrible things happening other places, and I think that we're so focused on what's happening in Palestine because the scale of it has been so quick, and it is such a terrible thing, that specific really small land area with so many people. I mean, it's just fucking terrible. And there are also a lot of other things that we really need to work on. And it's just hard. It's hard to hold all of that. Like, it's so hard to hold all of that.
It is. I had a moment earlier, and I just thought, sometimes I just think I just don't belong here. Like, this just isn't. I'm not supposed to. I don't. This isn't right. I'm either I'm not supposed to be here, or other people aren't. Because I do have such a. I don't know everything. I'm sorry. I have a cat.
No, your cat's doing great. I love it.
Is he? Is he? He's a pain. I love him though. His name is Spencer, and there's his little tushy hole. And I just have such a tender heart. And for me, it's like you were saying with, genocide is just wrong. There's nothing there's no context you're going to put it in. I saw somebody say recently, well, I don't understand why so many women and the LGBTQ plus community are supporting of Palestine because they don't like women or LGBTQ plus. And I was like, genocide is wrong regardless.
Yeah.
It's not conditional. It's just wrong. And if we can say that it's okay to do because these people don't do the things we like, we're going to really start twisting things into, well, then the next people who do what I don't like, then it's okay. It's just wrong. It has to be wrong. These children have nothing to do with the country, the parents, the religion, the system that they were born into. They have nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
And but it's such a weird thing to think we can't come together on that genocide is wrong. That seems like such an easy square one thing to agree on.
Mm-hmm.
What a weird world. Okay, look at him. He found a basket.
Okay, that's amazing. If I fits, I sits.
That's great.
Okay, gang, we are up at time here. Either of you have any final thoughts or
Oh,
whatever?
I do, because I looked up polyglot and I was
Oh.
so very wrong. Polyglot means you're able to speak or write several languages.
Oh, yeah, that's quite a bit
I'm
different.
gonna have to,
Polyglot.
maybe next time I will come back with because I saw this, I saw something where it was like a really cool name for spawn from a polyamorous
Very cool.
unit. Anyway, I will come back with some more random polyamorous terms just to entertain people the next time. I'll give myself that homework. But yeah, I just wanted to call myself out that I was totally wrong about that. That's not what that means at all. Yeah.
Somebody was listening.
And this was a
earlier.
great, other than that, this was a great, I know we've had this conversation has gone all sorts of places, and yeah,
That's what the show is.
That got a little serious, but hey,
Yes.
that's what the show is.
Mhm.
And yeah. Everybody go vote. That's it. My last thing.
Yes.
It's that we got a while. I'm gonna probably keep saying that. I still think you should vote.
Absolutely.
I know the way that I think you should vote, but like I still think people should vote.
Well, with the voting, you might not, some people won't show up to vote just because they're not into the presidential election. But there's all the other elections, all the local stuff, all the state
Your
stuff.
local election is your most important
Yeah,
election.
exactly.
Period. Skip the presidential
absolutely.
election if you want to. Vote
Yep.
locally every single time. Period.
100%.
And my whole thing is they're gonna know I'm here. My vote never counts in the winner's tally, ever. Not here, not where I live, but they are going to know I'm here. Because if I don't show up, they think they can do whatever they want because I'm not going to say anything about it. And it doesn't do much if it's just me.
Mm-hmm.
Go vote. Right? I know who you would vote for.
This cat is fantastic.
He's really very cool.
That's pretty cool. He's so cute, especially when he's staring in the camera. I'm like, hi.
Yeah, he's a beautiful boy.
Okay, you two. Thank you for being on tonight.
Okay.
Jess, always wonderful to see you. Jenni, I can't wait to be in between your legs. And people are gonna be like, what the fuck, Vanessa? You were just suicidal. Now you're talking about it's I'm on hormones again. I found out that my hormone levels were very low because my prescription had gotten changed, and I was only taking 1 milligram of estrogen instead of 6 unknowingly, because my prescription is completely different. And that with my different medication, and I just started ADHD meds too. So I'm a little bit more with it now. Hormones are very important. If it's something that Taryn and I talked about in the last episode, if you're feeling off, get your hormones checked, and because you just never know.
Jess, it was such a pleasure to meet you.
It was great to meet you, Jenni. And
I
thanks for
adore your
having,
body.
yeah, thanks for
Thanks
having
for
me on,
being here.
Vanessa, and Jenni's cat.
Jenny's cat.
Bye. Okay.
Bye, Jenny's kitty. Thank you for
Bye.
watching and listening to Transcending Humanity. Don't forget to send us money, please. Money. Send it. Bye.
Bye.